I've known about Hunter x Hunter for years, but two things prevented me from watching it. One, it's mainstream. Two, it's 148 episodes and I hear tell of expansion. These days, long anime are even more daunting because of the way I watch anime now. Before the Sugar Life experience, I'd watch 12 full episodes on one of my days off, spend the next week or two forging a YouTube video explaining why it didn't touch my heart as much as Future Diary, and repeat the cycle. These days are different. I watch one episode of something in the morning to accompany my coffee and one episode of something in the evening. There are circumstances where I spend more or less time watching anime, but this is the norm, believe it or not. A coworker encouraged me to watch this anyway, and as a result, this was my anime from about February 2022 to July 2022. Of course, with this one in particular, I took a break or two to watch a shorter anime in between, but you get the point. I think it's also worth mentioning I've only seen the 2011 version, not the 1999 version. In fact, I was not aware of an older version until I was already well into it. Staying on topic, Hunter x Hunter is about Gon, the nicest little boy ever. He says please and thank you, he values every opportunity to make a friend. Yes, that's the standard for a lot of young shonen protags, but Gon pulls it off infinitely more adorably than they do. Look at the praise me face, just look at it. Hey, any manga artists looking for a crack-headed fanfiction idea? I'd pay for a Gochimon wa Sagidezuka crossover just to see Gon and the Chimera Corps being the goodest children together. Oh, for those of you wondering, Gon is on a massive journey to find the father who took up being a hunter over raising him. What is a hunter? Best I can tell, hunters are basically D&D adventurers, except the exam to become one requires you to be Batman, at minimum. They give incorrect information where the exam site is as if they were hiding it from the NSA. Then they expect the applicants to run a marathon, then another, then the applicants should be able to fight monsters, then they can have a meal and decent sleep. If they must, the little wusses. What's really interesting is that they don't even seem to care why you want to be a hunter. One guy stated that hunters have responsibilities, meanwhile another guy told the highest authority of the hunter community that he wants to use his license to kill people, and the guy didn't bat an eye. In fact, near the end of the series, this same individual happened to be in the same room as several high-ranking hunters, and while it was obvious they had no fear of him, they didn't exactly turn into the law enforcement we're led to believe they are, merely expressing heavy disapproval of him. Very curious. Back on important subjects, Gon makes friends with Killua, the second goodest little boy ever, and he has the smuggest little smile when he yoinked out one dude's heart. I don't even care about Gon's other friends. These two are too cute! Before I go completely bunny mode, this is a proper shonen anime with intriguing fight scenes and powers that make you think about how they work. In fact, I can definitively say this succeeded where Megalobox failed, in that it made me appreciate its manliness. We don't care if an arm gets broken. We don't care if an arm gets broken off. I'll break my own arm off. I'm basically a bionicle. That being said, it started to lose me a little around the introduction of the Phantom Troupe, where I happened to be geared for good little boys and Hunter x Hunter was geared for a bloodbath. People just needed to stop talking on phones during that saga. Every time a non-character was halfway through a phone call, they or someone on the other end was killed. Not gonna lie, while the arc itself was fascinating, I wasn't as hyped for the Phantom Troupe as much as the writer probably wanted me to be. There was no one definitive reason. Sure, their leader kinda rubs me the wrong way, but they also have a cute character among them. I don't know. None of it being a deal breaker, I stuck with it to the Greed Island saga, where Gon and Killua play almost Sword Art Online. Main difference is that the game takes the whole body inside and there's stuff with cards. I don't even remember the main antagonist for this one. I remember the granddaddy of all gym teachers they fought along the way, but all I remember about the antagonist was his ability and the fact that he looked like a character from Pokemon to me. I was much more invested in two things: the workings of the game and Gon and Killua's training. Let me back up for a minute. So Dragon Ball characters can use their life force energy to pull off a number of things, but Hunter x Hunter characters can pull off a wider variety of life force energy feats. And Greed Island is entirely made up of constructs made by the life force energy of expert hunters who were bored. And I think that's an amazing idea. The other highlight of the Greed Island saga was Biscuit. She's a turd sometimes, but I think we all love her, even if it took a little too long to get a feel for what her motives are. First, she wanted to mess with some random kids, Then she realized their potential and decided to train them. It seems very coincidental that her motives can vary like this, but who cares? I actually got fired up to exercise a little. Nothing major, just took a couple of water bottles and used them as weights while watching, but the fact I felt even this level of inspiration makes me label this a very successful shonen. I'm going to go ahead and give my final verdict on Hunter x Hunter. My answer is yes, but you might consider stopping at the end of the Greed Island saga. It's not like the rest of the series turns into Dragon Ball GT or something lame like that. It's just one you think Gon found his dad, and that is a good place to end. 2. This is where the ants come out. Now, I'm a veteran of many a good horror, and the start of the Ant Saga does give a solid beginning of the end vibe as it introduces the ants. Enjoying the taste of human flesh is all well and fine. We all have that one relative who we know to decline if they invite you to a cookout because you know they found the meat very locally, but the ants are just plain gross about it. Not quite to a Higurashi extent, but if it was only PG-13 before, it should be TVMA now. What I'm saying is that Chimera Ant Saga was simultaneously the best and worst part of Hunter x Hunter for me. I was pretty patient with the series during the Phantom Troupe saga, but my patience was wearing thin here, and I found it was affecting my mood for the rest of the day. But there were two good trade-offs: Neferpito and Miriam. Neferpito was the first character in the whole series that had me digging around for cute fan art, and whoever drew him in a bikini, you owe me for the damage done to my eyes! Neferpito is in fact a boy. I checked. I don't care how feminine he looks. He's my good little man-eating cat boy. What makes him so special, though? Well, there were two coincidences. First, he's the first character in the series I could personally call relatable, touching the part of my heart where I keep my fondness for yanderes. Sure, there were two others with the same position among the ants with equal loyalty to their king. One of them even had an adorable alternate form. But those two didn't touch my heart like Neferpito. Attempting to explain that one would require a massive spoiler, so I'll save that for another time and move on to something easier to explain. I promise I'm still on subject. Before Neferpito was introduced to me, my cousin informed me he was writing an Overlord fanfiction where he is inserted in the place of the protagonist and wanted a character based on me to fight by his side. And I gave honest consideration to that and dreamed up a good catboy with a Robotnik skill set followed by healer skills, making a puppeteer/doctor. Guess what Neferpito's skills can be described as, too? Miriam pulled heartstrings, too, though you would not guess it at first. He spent the moment he was born telling his mother to shut up, then murdered one of his underlings after he was less than a minute old. And you know how I reacted to that by now. This changes when he meets his gaming buddy, and they turn cute together. Yeah, well, kinda, but it is... she never, but I suppose, look, all you need to know is that the highest point of the Chimera Ant Saga is where Hunter x Hunter gets in its truck and runs your hiney over. Now, I've stated before that I've almost cried over an anime, and there is still only one television program in general that has ever made me actually cry, but Hunter x Hunter was almost a second. I believe, had I been slightly more tired that day, or if I had found one more little thing in common with Miriam, I would have certainly cried. Before I conclude talking about the Chimera Ant Saga and speak about the series as a whole, I must say something about the narrator when things started ramping up. I would be too. Yeah, I'm able to agree with that statement because I am also looking at his face. Narrator, are you feeling okay? Have you been feeling like you haven't had enough to do with the story? Okay, I'm going to go see the new Super Mario movie by myself, and then you're coming with me when I see it a second time, and I'm going to do the same thing to you. See how you like it. Longtime viewers of mine have noticed some irony. My biggest complaint, and yet that's what gives Hunter x Hunter its similarities to Gakugarashi and Happy Sugar Life. It knows how to bounce from happy fun time to the darkest depths and back again. Only it does this in much slower motion. And I love being chaotically thrown about like that. But this very approach leaves me in the darker parts just slightly too long. Let's talk about something that could actually be fixed instead. The opening. The one opening across 148 episodes, and no, a second version of the same song doesn't count as a real change. I was impressed at first, but it wore off by episode 20. You changed up your credits theme at an appropriate pace. Why can't you do the same with the opening? Then there's Hisoka. If you live with your parents, watch Hunter x Hunter subbed first, and Hisoka is why. I was talking to a female friend about Hunter x Hunter, and she declared great fondness for Hisoka, which in turn gave me great concern. Hisoka's not a pedophile, strictly speaking, but my goodest boys happen to fall under his preferences anyway, and he wants the whole world to know it. You know what, though? While the plot wouldn't change too much without him, the series wouldn't quite be the same either. If nothing else, after some of my experiences with other animes, I'm just happy the little creep isn't an extremely relatable character. I think we can all agree that's just how things should be.